Day Live via the internet. Log on to our website, which is www.theisraelofgod.com. Click on the link Sabbath Day Live on our homepage. You will need Windows Media Player to view our program. We stream live twice every Sabbath at 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Central Time. If you enjoy our program, we would appreciate your donations to help defer the cost of continuing this work. Send donations to the Israel of God, 2515 East 75th Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60649. Also, if you're in the Chicago area, please feel free to join us at our study class located at 2515 East 75th Street here in Chicago.
I've been looking,
searching, trying to find the right way to walk. Stay beside me, guide me, and try me. I wanna walk in your light.
I've been looking,
searching, trying to find the right way to walk.
the Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. And whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemy, my faith and trust I put all in thee. Believe you got the world in your hand. You bless me, Lord, I know I can stand.
Show me the way, Lord.
I will be faithful, for I am desolate and afflicted. Lord, show me the way.
I want to say to the people that are watching us live on internet, good afternoon. And as always, it is good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. Before we get into this lesson, sisters and brothers, I want to say to the people that's calling me because of this Supreme Court decision, I want to say this. God made man a free agent. He said, I set before you good and evil, life and death. Choose life and live. If God made them free agent, then I cannot take it away from them. But the choice is clear. You do what God said and keep his laws, you live. If you don't, you die. Don't bother me. I say to you, like I said to everybody else said this morning, I don't have no dog in this fight. I'm just a preacher. I preach all the law. You will go to the lake of fire for homosexuality. You'll go to the lake of fire for adultery. You'll go to the lake of fire for stealing, for killing, and lying. So if you're going to keep the law, let's keep it all. And this is the results we get when the ministers kill the law. When you kill the law, everything is legal. So, as far as I'm concerned, I understand that God made a free agent. Man want to marry a man, woman want to marry a woman, be my guest. I will lose 2 seconds of sleep over it. Because God made you a free agent. And it's up to you to do it. I'm not going to condemn it. I ain't going to uphold it. I'm going to leave it alone because God's a judge. And I guarantee you, if you read that book, you'll find out that this issue is not with them and me. It is with them and God. So don't call me no more. Tell me, whoa, what an abomination. I understand all that, but that ain't none of my business. My business is preaching the gospel. Now, so we're going to get to this lesson, sisters and brothers. You know, years ago, a lot of younger people don't know nothing about it, but sooner or later you're going to run into somebody out of the old school. It used to be taught that Israel, that when Abraham, God told Abraham that his seed was going to be in captivity for 400 years, everybody automatically taught that it was talking about here in America. I'm going to tell you a startling fact. Israel in the old days thought that the only Hebrew Israelites was just us in America here. You understand? And they saying that, look, 400 years we're going to be out of this captivity and we're going to get taken back to the land. I think maybe we got, about 6 more years left. But that's if you're talking about America. But America is not the place where Israel's captivity started, sisters and brothers. It started a long time ago, and we're going to look at some of these things. But we're teaching that Israel, when the 400 years, the Israelites taught it. Then the Muslims taught it. They got it from us. 400 years, and we're going to get out of here. We got about 6 more years, and I don't see nobody preparing to do nothing. However, we're going to show you, sisters and brothers, that this was not talking about America. In fact, it was talking about Egypt. But let's go and examine this thing. Let's go and look at what the Lord said to Abraham in the first place. We're going to go into Genesis, the 15th chapter. See, the problem with us, sisters and brothers, we got a lot of knowledge, but we don't read nothing. Everything we hear just about is hearsay. Every now and then, I ask people a little question when they say so-and-so. I said, what is written there? Can you show that to me? Well, it's in there. I said, oh, of course, show it to me. All of a sudden, want to change the subject. Right. But we're going to look and see exactly what God said to Abraham, and we're going to break this promise down, sisters and brothers. Because Israel, the brothers have gotten the captivities mixed up. Because we don't fit the 400 years. So the title of this lesson, I was getting around to it. Everybody act like I'm old. I can't believe this. I'm just kind of like talking my way into it. Right. I ain't like everybody think I'm senile now. At the risk of not being advised again, I'm going to give you the title of this lesson. The title of this lesson is The 400 Years of Captivity. The 400 years of captivity. Is it now or in the past? The 400 years of captivity. Is it now or in the past? All the older Israelites know about this here because we all figured. In fact, we thought we were going to leave in 79. They even dropped the ball on that. I always remember who was daddy? Canaan, they call him. Used to be walking around in Washington sign with the big sign on there. I think we're going to stitch in time in 79, something like that. All the Israelites run off and bought property all over the country. Because they figured, well, when the great tribulation comes, we're going to go off on our farms and we're going to live and eat real good while the rest of the world, America, is in squalor. I asked the question, what do you think is going to happen with these people with all these big guns and tanks when they find out that you're on a farm with lots of food and stuff? Right. You think they're going to say, oh, we're going to let them eat their food? We don't think everybody wants a farm. Even Brother Stone got caught up in it. And he was so down on it until I started a fund drive. I put down the first $500. I think my Sister Drummer might remember that, for this property. Because I wanted him to get this property so he can get back to teaching us this gospel. Because he was the man in that day. Didn't nobody come close to Brother Stern. Now he hung up on this property. So we got the property, so we got back to the gospel. But we're going to show you, sisters and brothers, that this 400 years that all the Israelites taught was not talking about this captivity. But I know what you're thinking. Well, Brother Boy, we ain't in nobody's captivity. Ain't nobody ruling over us. I'm going to tell you something. Drive your car without a license and see what happened to it. Don't pay your taxes, property taxes, on your house that you don't own a dime on and see what they're going to do to you. Go fishing with the pole that you're going to buy in God's lake and catch God's fish without a fishing license and see what's going to happen to you. Mm-hmm. I could go on and on and on. We're here, sisters and brothers, and we got to deal with this, and we're going to show you that there was 2 great captivities with Israel. And let's deal with the first one first. Let's start in Genesis, the 15th chapter. And we're going to show you that this is not talking about America, sisters and brothers, because we're going to point out certain things that simply does not apply to our captivity in America. Genesis 15:1. Go ahead.
After these sayings, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward.
Go ahead.
And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me? Seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus.
And Abram, which became Abraham, wanted to ask the Lord, what you going to give me? I don't have a child. I'm an old man. Go ahead and read.
And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir.
Now he's talking about a stranger that's not even one of my children. He is my heir. Go ahead and read.
And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir.
So this guy's not going to be your heir, but a son that's going to be born to you going to be your heir. Go ahead and read.
And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them.
Go ahead.
And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be.
Now he took him out and had him to look at the heavens, saw all them stars out there. So now see if you can count all these stars. You can't count them. So shall your seed be. Sisters and brothers, that's why David got in trouble for counting Israel, because the Lord said you can't count the seed, Abraham's seed. David tried. Joab didn't like it, so he didn't count everybody. But because of David's move, 70,000 Israelites died because of that move. Because God said you can't count Israel. And you still can't. They can't understand why they can't get a true census in the city of us here. Somebody ought, because everybody's scared. I don't know. They're going to come and get me in the night. And you haven't done nothing. You understand what I'm saying? But go ahead and read.
6. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it.
Go ahead.
And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it?
Now he said, I'm going to give you this land. He wanted to know, how do I know I'm going to inherit it? So the Lord had him go through some changes. Then he put him in a deep sleep and showed it to him in a dream. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12, and go ahead.
And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him.
Go ahead.
And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs.
Go ahead.
And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
And this is where the conflict came, sisters and brothers. He said, your seed is going to dwell in a land that's not theirs, a strange land. And they're going to serve him, and they are going to afflict them 400 years. And all the Israelites and the Muslims was teaching, this is talking about America here. But see, we got to examine this a little bit. Let's look at a few other things that he said here. Go ahead and read.
And also that nation.
And also that nation, go ahead.
Whom they shall serve. Will I judge. And afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
Now, if you're thinking it's just one nation, see, this is America he's talking about. But he said after they're going to come out with great substance. The great substance they came out when Israel come out of Egypt, they robbed the Egyptians. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age.
Go ahead.
But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
Now these are two major keys here. For in the 4th generation, they're going to come back to this place. 4th generation from who? He was talking to Abraham. So it's 4th generation from Abraham. Then he said, but still the Amorites have some time to fulfill. See, the Lord give everybody a time. Amorites had a time to get this thing together or get cut off. And we're going to examine this, sisters and brothers, and look at it and see what time it is. But first, Israel went out into Egypt. And Israel became a nation in Egypt. And the Egyptians punished them, and that's the 400 years we're going to have us to look at. Let's back up. Let's go over, rather, to Exodus, the 12th chapter. They're going to have us to look at this, the time that Israel was down in Egypt. Exodus chapter 12. Because this thing, sisters and brothers, was taught by all Israelites, even Brother Stern. But me and him kicked it and we kicked it. And one day we was at breakfast. He said, look here, boy. I think you got a point there. But it had never been raised. You understand what I'm saying? And you know, I wasn't going to disrespect my teacher, but since we up there throwing down turkey bacon and eggs. We be kicking book. And I just threw that on the table. And he looked at it. He said, look here, boy. Well, he didn't take it right away. A couple of weeks later, he looked at it. He said, look here, boy, I think you got a point there. But the whole thing was, sisters and brothers, everybody was taught this and nobody challenged it. But I had a problem with it. Because one thing he said, they're going to come back in the fourth generation to the land. Fourth from who? Abraham. Then again he said, then the Amorites have some time to fulfill. That means that God was going to give their land to Israel. So let's go first and get Israel sprung out of this great captivity that the Egyptians put us in. This is the 400 years that it's talking about. We're going to start at Exodus 12 and 1. Exodus 12 and 1. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
See, that's why our year don't start the same time as the Gentiles' year. That's why our calendars are different. The Lord started his in the last of April, April, or either vacillate from the last of April or the first of March. We go by the new moon in Jerusalem. And the whole thing, but the Gentile starts in January. 2 different beginnings of years altogether. Because the Lord set this year here. Go ahead and read.
Speaking unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb.
So I'm going to read a little more of this, sisters and brothers, because I want you to understand this lamb here is the lamb that stands for Jesus. This is what people don't understand. Jesus wasn't no apparition. He wasn't no accident. Everything talked about him. Look what the quality of this lamb. Keep reading.
Your lamb shall be without blemish.
It's got to be perfect. Go ahead and read.
A male of the first year.
It's got to be a male in the firstborn. Can't be no third or fourth born. Go ahead and read.
Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
And the whole assembly going to kill it in the evening. Go ahead and read.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
Now you're going to take the blood and you're going to put it on your doorposts over your houses. Why is that? Skip down to verse 11. Verse 11 and go ahead.
And thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet.
Go ahead.
And your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover.
Now that's where the Passover come from. Let's show you why it's called a Passover. Go ahead and read.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood.
And when I see the house of the Israelite.
Nope.
When I see the blood, go ahead.
I will pass over you.
I will pass over you. That's where the word Passover come from. Go ahead and finish that.
And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
Now, this is 2 things I learned from here, sisters and brothers. I found out that it wasn't Israel's righteousness that saved us, the firstborn. It was the blood. And I found out another thing that's always been in place and man don't pay no attention to it. It is faith. Faith is merely belief. If you believe in the Lord, then you will do what he said. Isn't that correct? What if the people say, oh, Moses, we don't believe you. I ain't putting no blood over my doorpost. What would happen to the firstborn? Die. That's why when Jesus healed people, he said, be it according to your faith. If you don't have no faith, you can't be saved. I don't care who it is. And faith is merely belief, but you got to know something to believe in. So we have 2 things here. The people whose firstborn didn't die, believed in God. Therefore, they put the blood over the doorpost. And the other thing that I learned here no matter who you are, what nationality, what color, whatever, if you believe God and got under that blood, you would have been delivered too. Right. Think about it, sisters and brothers. So let's see what happens. Skip down to verse 11. Verse 11 and go ahead.
We read 13.
Verse 13, brother. Go ahead.
We read 13.
You read it? Skip down to verse 29.
29.
You're supposed to keep me in order.
I got you.
Okay, go ahead.
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne, unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle.
So now, the Egyptians and all these other people didn't believe in Israel's God, so they didn't put the blood over the doorpost. So the Lord came through and smote the firstborn of all of them. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians.
Go ahead.
And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go. Serve the Lord as ye have said.
No, he wanted, Pharaoh wanted Israel out of his country, where he wouldn't let them go at first. But the Egyptians wanted them gone too. Go ahead.
Also, take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also.
Sound like Pharaoh started believing Israel God, don't it? Go ahead and read.
And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste. But they said, We be all dead men.
I'll be wanting to get them out of there too. I done woke up and my firstborn is dead, and it's dead in every house. They said, we got to get him out here because all of us going to be killed if we don't get rid of these people. Yeah. Skip down to verse 40. Verse 40. And go ahead.
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
Now that's why it said 430 years. Some have said because it's 430, that means it had to be another time. No, sisters and brothers, they just didn't stay there for 500 years. 430 years. That's how long they was there. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out of the land of Egypt.
So now, Israel was down there for 430 years, and not one Israelite was left in the land. That's what I tell people now, when the Lord take us back, and he will take his people back. You just don't know it because we've been taught by other people. So other people are not interested in your faith. They're interested in their own. So they ain't telling your story. He's telling his story. It's time for you to tell your story. So now, they was down there for 430 years, and the Lord sprung them, sisters and brothers, and all of a sudden, you had a nation that had come from another nation. Now let's go and examine this promise that the Lord made at Abraham, because we're going to examine it. Now I want you to put your marker in Genesis the 15th chapter, because we're going to be in and out of it all afternoon. Because we had a whole doctrine looking for us to be out of here in 400 years. Apparently somebody must miscalculate it, and they thought that the 400 years had expired. They have. Really. All of a sudden, ain't nobody talking about it no more. Right. But somebody will tell you that if you press them, oh, we're going to be in here for 400 years and we're out of here. Who's going to take you out? What is it going to look like at the time when you're taken out? We're going to find a little of that too. In fact, we're going to kind of like get knee deep in this lesson. We're going to read one verse. We're going to examine it first. Verse 13, 15 and verse 13. Read it.
And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
He said, know of a surety that your seed is going to be in a land that's not theirs, and we're going to show you that land is Egypt, and they're going to afflict them 400 years. Now keep your marker here, and let's go examine this. Let's go in the 105th chapter of Psalm. Psalm 105. Because a lot of people don't even know who Egypt is. They don't know who his father is. Especially now, because you got guys over there that said they look over there and these are the Egyptians. But these Egyptians, they done changed colors over the generations. Psalm 105, and we're going to start at verse 23, because the Lord is talking about Israel's time in Egypt. 105 and 23. Okay, go ahead.
Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
So now Israel and Jacob is one and the same. The Lord adopted Jacob and gave him his name. That's why he said, when you pollute the name of Israel, he tell you polluting my holy name. So he said Israel sojourned in the land of Ham. Why is it that he called Egypt the land of Ham? Because Ham is Mizraim, Egypt's second oldest son. When the Greeks look at the Hamite, at the Mizraimites, they say these people are black. That's the Egypt. Look up Egypt. It means black. Mm-hmm. But then we don't have a lot of scholars because they don't nobody read. That take me back to the thing is, if Egypt was black and Moses passed down an Egyptian and Moses was an Israelite, what color is Israel?
Black.
Go ahead and read.
24. And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants.
Now, the Lord did that. Go ahead and read.
He sent Moses his servant and Aaron whom he had chosen. They showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham.
So all them signs that the Lord had Moses do and destroying Egypt, he showed them among the Egyptians in the land of Ham, because it's Ham's second oldest son, sisters and brothers. Skip down to verse 36. Verse 36. And go ahead.
He smote also all the firstborn in their land.
He's showing you what he did. He killed all the firstborn in the land. Go ahead.
The chief of all their strength.
And the chief of all their strength, because these are mostly males. But skip down to verse 38 and go ahead.
Egypt was glad when they departed.
Yes, sir.
For the fear of them fell upon them.
I guess I'd be scared too if your God done kill the firstborn in everybody's house in Egypt.
Right.
So they said, we got to get these people out of here lest we all be dead men. Skip down to verse 42. Verse 42. And go ahead.
For he remembered his holy promise and Abraham his servant.
So he remembered what he told Abraham about how he's going to bring his children back in the fourth generation. So he remembered that. Go ahead and read.
And he brought forth his people with joy and his chosen with gladness. And gave them the land to the heathen. And they inherited the labor of the people.
So we're going to show you that the land that he gave them was the land of the Amorites. When he said inherit the land of the people, that's because when Israel went, we're going to show you they took over their cities. So they found crops and everything planted and grown up. They went into a place, all they had to do was sit down and eat. Didn't have to build no houses. But still, letting you know that this was the land of Ham. So now he told you about this. He said, but they're going to come in the fourth generation, sisters and brothers. So let's go back and read that. Let's go back to 15th chapter. That's why I told you to stay there. And we're going to start reading at verse 14. Because we're going to break this down a little at a time. Because it don't mean too much now, but in the old days, it meant a whole lot. Because when you said that this is not the 400 years that the 400 years that the Bible is talking about, you had an argument that would take you 2-3 days. Verse 14, go ahead.
And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge.
And that nation, which is Israel, one nation, and we scattered all over the world, he said, will I judge? Go ahead and read.
And afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace.
He said they're going to come out with great substance. When you read, the Egyptian, Israel spoiled the Egyptian. He said, but you're going to go ahead and die in peace. Go ahead.
Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again.
But in the fourth generation, well, I'm going to do this half a verse thing. You know, like preachers like to do. This message is coming from the first half of the 16th verse.
Right.
But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither. Put your marker here. We're going to deal with the second half next. Let's go into Matthew, the first chapter. Matthew, the first chapter. I figure, sisters and brothers, if you can't have a little fun preaching the gospel, why preach it? Remember when I made the lesson of marriage and adultery, I was having too much fun. After the girl's sister come, brother, that's a serious message. Why is it that you have so much fun? That's because I ain't committing adultery. if I was doing it, then I wouldn't have been so happy. So I was happy because I was clean in that. So why shouldn't I? Matthew, the first chapter and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham.
Now, this is going to tell Jesus' lineage, which he come out the lineage of David, therefore he's called the son of David, and he came also out of the lineage of Abraham, out of which David came. That's why he was called the son of Abraham. Skip down to verse 17, and we're going to do some genealogy here. 17, go ahead.
So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations.
From Abraham to David is 14 generations. Go ahead and read.
And from David until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations.
And from the time that David was king and the time that Nebuchadnezzar took out Israel, Judah was 14 generations. Go ahead and read.
And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations.
And from the Babylon time to Jesus is 14 generations. How many generations is that?
42.
42 generations. That's a long ways from 4 generations, ain't it? Mm-hmm. About 38 away from them. So then that and still look at the generation that is from the time of Jesus even to this time. Whole lot of generations, sisters and brothers. So that let us know he couldn't have been talking about us here in America, or we should have been gone. Because he said the 4th generation. 4 and 42 don't compute. It's all that simple. You can't mistake the two. Now let's go back to Genesis, the 15th chapter, and we're going to read that second half of the 16th verse. Okay, go ahead.
For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So we had two things. First thing is they're going to come in the 4th generation. And second thing, they're going to come when the Lord, the allotted time that God give the Amorites to clean themselves up. See, God give you some time. Because everybody got some dirt on them. He give you time to clean yourself up. But if you clean yourself up, hey, he'll find a way to save you. But if you don't clean yourself up, he'll cut you off. You just look at Ahab. Ahab had the wickedest wife on the planet, Jezebel. And she was not a streetwalker, sisters and brothers. She was a minister, a female minister. And the Lord got mad and he told Elijah, go and tell Ahab that anybody in his house is not going to be buried. If somebody in his house be killed in the field, the beast's going to eat them up. If they be killed in the city, the dog's going to eat them up. Ahab put on sackcloth and threw dirt on him, and he walked softly before the Lord. You know what the Lord told Elijah? See, he done humbled himself. Okay, I ain't going to do this in his generation. I'm going to do it down the line. That shows you the Lord, he looked for a reason to keep from destroying you. That's why Jonah got mad, because he knew the mercy of the Lord when the Lord told him to go and prophesy to Nineveh. He knew that the Ninevites was going to change. He didn't want that because the Ninevites did Israel in too. That's why he tried to run, and the Lord had to send a storm and have him thrown overboard, and the fish ate him and threw him up on the rock. He said, now go tell him. And sure enough, when he went and prophesied, everybody in Nineveh repented. They even put sackcloth on the beast. So the Lord put him forth. They put him forth a little bit because he's a merciful God. You understand? So the Lord gave the Amorites time, but they didn't change. So now, it's time then to take their land. Now let's go into Numbers, the 21st chapter. And the Lord is always fair. Look, when he do something, you can't say he defrauded. It's just like when we got the birthright for Esau, we didn't steal it, we bought it. You understand? And so, same thing here. I'm going to show you how the Lord ended up giving the Amorites land to Israel. I mean, God is fair at all times. When you start looking at it and start to understand the way this God operates, you say, how can you not serve this guy? Everything he do is for your good. He needs nothing. That's right. We're going to start at verse 10, Numbers 21 and 10. Okay, go ahead.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Oboth.
That's after they came out of Egypt, and the Lord would have them go here and camp a while, and he'd go there and camp a while. But go ahead and read.
And they journeyed from Oboth and pitched at IOG in the wilderness which is before Moab toward the sun rising.
Go ahead.
From thence they removed and pitched in the valley of Zerah. From thence they removed and pitched on the other side of Arnon, which is in the wilderness that cometh out of the coast of the Amorites. For Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites.
So now they pitched close to the Amorites. Now let's see what Israel did, because they wanted to go through the Amorites' coast. Let's see what they did. Skip down to verse 21. Verse 21 and go ahead.
And Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, Let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we be past thy borders.
So now let us pass through your land. Now you had this highway that's called the king's highway that went through the borders of the Amorites. Let us pass. We're not going to turn and eat nothing out of your fields. We ain't going to touch your crop. We're not even going to drink the water out your well. Just let us pass. If the Amorites had said, okay, no problem. But listen, what did the Amorites do? Go ahead and read.
And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness.
All they wanted to do just pass through. They didn't want to fight you. Didn't want to take nothing you had. Just wanted to pass. King Sihon of the Amorites, no, you ain't coming through here. Got all his people and come out and wage war with Israel. And let's see what happened.
And he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword, and possessed his land from Arnon unto Jabbok, even unto the children of Ammon. For the border of the children of Ammon was strong.
So Israel beat him, won the war. And what happened? Go ahead.
And Israel took all these cities. And Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof.
Didn't the Lord say that they're going to come in the fourth generation? But the Amorites have some iniquity to fulfill? Because the Lord gave the Amorites their time, and when their time was up, he sent Israel, so now just tell them to let them pass through the land. But the Lord wasn't going to do that, because they had to go, because they had expired as far as repenting and doing things right. So the Lord gave them the cities of the Amorites. They gave them their fields. All you got to do is go in and live in houses already built and eat the fruit of a field that already been planted. That's why the Lord said he's going to eat that which is not theirs. So now, let's go and the Lord tell you about this in Amos the 2nd chapter. Let's go to Amos the 2nd chapter, because the Lord is the one that did it. But when you going to start look at the 400 years of captivity, sisters and brothers, you have to take these things into consideration. You just can't ignore them. Amos the 2nd chapter. But the problem is people ignore too much stuff out of the Bible. If it don't exactly go along with the way I see it, it ain't necessarily so. That kind of mindset will get you cut off. Now, this is the Lord talking about Israel and they misbehaving. Verse 6. Amos 2 and 6. Okay, go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof.
Go ahead.
Because they sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes, that pant after the dust of the earth on the head of the poor.
Now look, so Israel ain't so innocent, is it?
Nope.
We did a little selling too. And we did a little messing over people. You Israelite nowadays, if you listen to them, everybody's perfect. Everybody, all Israelites are perfect. Everybody else ain't no good. The Lord said, look what you did. Right. Finish that verse.
And turn aside the way of the meek, and a man and his father will go into unto the same maid to profane my holy name.
So now didn't nobody teach us that. We was doing that before we even got into captivity. But look what the Lord said he did. Skip down to verse 9. Verse 9 and go ahead.
Yet destroyed I the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, and he was strong as the oaks.
Go ahead.
Yet I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath.
Look, sisters and brothers, Israel could not have beat these big people. That's why when they first sent the people in the land, they look at these great big people and they look at the Anakims too. They said, look, we look like grasshoppers before those people. The Lord had to push him into doing it. But the Lord said, but I destroyed them. They was bigger and stronger than you. Go ahead.
Also I brought you up from the land of Egypt and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite.
Didn't he say, you're going to come in the fourth generation? Because the Amorites still have some iniquity to fulfill. So where are the Amorites nowadays? You understand? Where are the generations? We just counted 42 generations to get to Jesus. So we can't be talking about this American captivity here, sisters and brothers. Even the disciple Stephen that got stoned to death in Paul's day confirmed that this 400 years we are talking about was in Egypt. He confirmed it because he got to disputing with other Israelites. You know, we always had Israelites out there disputing with Israelites, and they couldn't stand with Stephen. So they grabbed him and took him before the elders, and the elders said, look, you've been accused of a lot of stuff, man. Explain yourself. Stephen could have went and made it short, but he had to let these Israelites know, I know about the Father. This is one thing the Israelites have against the Israeli God and against me. Because I believe and teach Jesus, they act like I don't know the law. Brother going to ask me one time, what is the evening in the morning oblation? I said, that's sacrifice. He's shocked. Why are you shocked? That simple thing. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, let's go into Acts. And this guy ran this whole thing down to him, starting with Abraham. Acts the 7th chapter. Acts chapter 7. Always says, sister and brother, if you're going to be a teaching the word of God, know what you're talking about. Go in this book and read it. You don't have to concoct no story. The Lord have an answer for everything. And he's going to run this whole thing by. This is Stephen before they stoned him to death. That's why you can get killed dealing with the truth, especially in that day.
Yep.
And the day going to come when it's going to come back, because the Lord Jesus told you the day going to come when they should kill you and think that they are doing God a service. This is some serious business here. Because when you start teaching this word the way it is, you're going against everybody. You're going to tell your parents that Christmas is pagan. Now they want to put you out. Easter is pagan. You shouldn't eat that pig. They're just looking at you. Girl, I know your grandmama is looking down from heaven frowning on you. No, she not, because she's in the grave. She ain't looking at nothing. What? You out of here. I tell people that all the time. Right. They call me, brother boy, you know, my mama don't want me to get out and my friend won't talk to me. I said, is that right? Yeah. I said, now you are sanctified for the first time in your life. And I'm going to warn you, sisters and brothers, that the Lord had me put together a lesson to warn you. You're about to get in trouble. Because somebody's going to come against you, and the first battle is going to start in your own house. Now here, Stephen was going to run this thing by them people to let them know, look, I ain't teaching no strange doctrine. I'm dealing with the same thing you are. Verse 2, go ahead.
And he said, men and brethren and fathers, hearken. The God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia before he dwelt at Charan.
And we read that. Go ahead.
And said unto him, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred, and come into the land which I shall show thee.
Go ahead.
Then came he out of the land of the Chaldeans and dwelt in Charan. And from thence, when his father was dead, he removed him into this land wherein ye now dwell.
So the Lord told Abraham to leave his land, his father's house, and he came to the land of Canaan where Israel was at that time. Go ahead and read.
And he gave him none inheritance in it. No, not so much as to set his foot on.
Go ahead.
Yet he promised that he would give it to him for a possession, and to his seed after him.
Go ahead.
When as yet he had no child.
So he made the promise. We read it. He's going to give his land to him and his seed, even though he hadn't had one child. That's when Abraham made the argument, I don't have a child. What you going to give me? But go ahead and read.
And God spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage, and entreat them evil 400 years.
Now, so this is the same thing we read this, didn't we? So this guy is talking about what God told Abraham. They're going to dwell in a strange land. They're going to put them in bondage, and they're going to treat them evil for 400 years. We're dealing with the same 400 years. Go ahead and read.
And the nation to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said God.
Go ahead.
And after that shall they come forth and serve me in this place.
And after that shall they come forth and serve me. We happen to know that's the fourth generation, don't we? Go ahead and read.
And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham begat Isaac, and circumcised him the 8th day.
Go ahead.
And Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs. And the patriarchs moved with envy, sold Joseph into Egypt, but God was with him.
So now Isaac come out of Abraham. Abraham had Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. And because Jacob loved his second to the last son more, his brothers hated him, and they sold him into Egypt. But what happened when he got out there? Go ahead and read.
And delivered him out of all his afflictions.
So the Lord was with Joseph and delivered him out of all his troubles. Go ahead and read.
And gave him favor and wisdom in the sight of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And he made him governor over Egypt and all his house.
So he made Joseph governor over the whole land of Egypt, sisters and brothers. Skip down to verse 14 and go ahead.
Then sent Joseph and called his father Jacob to him, and all his kindred 75 souls.
That's how Israel ended up in Egypt, because when Joseph became the ruler over Egypt, there was a great big drought over the whole land. And the famine was over everything. And Joseph, he was also in the land of Canaan, so Joseph went out and brought his family up to Egypt, because they had corn and everything there, so everybody could eat. That's how they got there. He was sold, became head of Egypt, then he sent and got his family, his father's family. Go ahead and read.
So Jacob went down into Egypt and died, he and our fathers.
So everybody that went down in Joseph's day died, including Joseph. Go ahead and read.
And were carried over into Shechem and laid in the sepulchre that Abraham bought for a sum of money, and the sons of Emor, the father of Shechem.
Go ahead.
But when the time of the promise drew nigh, which God had sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt.
So when the time of the promise, what promise? That he would bring his seed out of the house of bondage, sisters and brothers. And he's going to do it in the fourth generation and bring it back to the land. So when the time of the promise came, Israel had babies like rabbits. Well, we still do that. Can't nobody out baby us. But anyway, go ahead.
Till another king arose which knew not Joseph. The same dealt subtly with our kindred, and evil entreated our fathers.
Go ahead.
So that they cast out their young children to the end they might not live.
So you had a Pharaoh. He made the thing, said, look, these guys, these Israelites outgrew us. They outnumbered us. Now, if we get in the fight with the enemy, they're going to side with the enemy and get away from us. So what he did, he put them under child slavery. That didn't work. Then he told the midwife, go in, and if your woman is pregnant, if she's a girl, let her live. But if it is a boy, a male, kill him. That's how you cut off a whole nation. If you kill every male in the nation, then you kill a nation, because the man carried the seed. But the midwives wouldn't do it. In the meantime, Moses was born. Go ahead and read.
20. In which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair, and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son.
Now think about it, sisters and brothers. Moses' mother tried to hide him. She hid him for 3 months, but she couldn't hide him no more, because everybody was looking or had put on alert by Pharaoh that if a male is born, he wants the Egyptians to cast them in the river. That had to be the Nile where all them big crocodiles are. So she couldn't deal with it no more. She put a little old boat and put him in the flags of the river. That's the weeds in the river's edge. And Pharaoh's daughter discovered him and took her as his own son. I got to ask the question. What if Moses had looked like the people that call themselves us nowadays? Pharaoh said, I'm pretty sure Pharaoh said, daughter, I knew you had a problem. I didn't know it was that bad.
Right.
You done found you a baby somewhere. But if the baby looked like us, which looked like the Egyptians, the worst thing is say, well, where'd you get that baby? Well, you know, Dad, I didn't want to bother you. You've been busy. Okay, I understand that. Moses passed as Pharaoh's grandson. How can you pass as somebody's grandson if you're not the same color, and especially if he's looking for the males in your nationality to kill them all? Think about it, sisters and brothers. So he became a son. Skip down to verse 35. Verse 35 and go ahead.
This Moses whom they refused, saying, who made thee a ruler and a judge?
Now this is one man, they refused that. You know why he said that? Because Moses, when he got grown, he decided to go out and make himself known among Israelites. You understand? I'm one of y'all. But he saw an Egyptian abusing an Israelite. So he looked around and make sure nobody looking. He thought wasn't nobody seeing him. And he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. He come out the next day, two Israelites fighting. And the one that's abusing the other, when Moses said, you brothers, y'all shouldn't do that, he cast him away and said, what you going to do, man? Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? You going to kill me like you killed the Egyptians? Moses said, I'm out of here. Because Moses knows us, we cannot hold no secret. Like I said this morning, me and this brother here, we can lock ourselves in the closet and make some grand plans. And when we come out the closet, before the sun go down, the Gentile gonna know what we done did. Moses know this, people. Because one of us gonna tell it. He fled to Egypt. Now, so this guy told him, who made you a ruler and a judge? And the Lord said, this same Moses, God made a ruler and a judge. Go ahead and read.
The same did God send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the bush.
Go ahead.
He brought them out. After that, he had showed wonders and signs in the land of Egypt and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years.
Now, he brought them out. After they had done that for 40 years, go ahead.
This is that Moses which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me, him ye shall ye hear.
Now that's when the Lord first told Israel, I'm going to give you somebody just like Moses. Because when the Lord come down on Mount Sinai and gave him the 10 Commandments, Israel got so scared, and they told Moses, look, we don't want to talk to God no more. You talk to God and tell us what the Lord wants, and we will do all that he said. And the Lord told Moses, they have said what they have said. I heard them. So I'm going to tell you something, Moses. I'm going to raise up a prophet from among your brethren like unto you. That prophet they better hear. And that was Jesus. And you hang around here long enough, we will show you how close Jesus and Moses is. I mean, it's almost like I'll put it like this here. Moses is a prototype of Jesus. He said, I'm going to raise up one like unto him and like unto you, Moses, and everybody that don't deal with that prophet, they got a problem. Go ahead and read.
This is he that was in the church in the wilderness.
So next time somebody tell you the church started on Pentecost, no, the church was in the wilderness. Israel is the church. Go ahead and read.
With the angel which spake to him in the Mount Sinai. And with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us.
So now, when Moses brought Israel out of the wilderness, and Israel, after 40 years, went into the, before they went into the wilderness, into the land, sisters and brothers, that captivity was over with. That's the 400 years. That was down in Egypt. So the captivity that we are under now, the Lord called on us, and the prophets told about that before we even got to the promised land. That's what we're dealing with now. And we're going to show you that we're dealing with it now. The Egyptian captivity didn't fit us, sisters and brothers, in these last days. But the captivity that Moses called on us in the wilderness, after we had got out of Egypt, before we got into the promised land, that is the captivity we're under. Now let's go look at it. Let's go into Deuteronomy the 28th chapter. See, the Lord have all this thing written out. That's why don't surprise me. I ain't got time to worry about nothing. People coming to me talking about, well, brother, what do you think about the New World Order? I'll tell you when the New World is going to be under a different order. That's when them heavens roll back like a scroll and the Lord come up on the scene. Right. So ain't nothing going to happen new. This man was a thief, and he's going to be a thief. And I don't care how they change or who deal with it, that thievery is going to continue. Ain't nothing changing. How you going to go from sin to sin and have a new order? You just have a different flavor. Numbers chapter 28, Deuteronomy chapter 28. And we're going to show you this thing, sisters and brothers. This is the captivity that we are under, which we didn't have to be under. You know, this is why I tell this brother all the time, why are you running around trying to hate on people? Yes. Nobody is guilty but your forefathers. And because you won't acknowledge the guilt, you're guilty too. Let's look at this thing. Deuteronomy 28:1. We're going to examine this. Go ahead and read.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Pay attention to this now. That's why I tell people all the time, this is not between me and the Gentile. This is not between Israel and the Amorites or anybody else. This is between Israel and its God. He said, look, if you obey and do what I command you today, I will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Can you imagine the magnitude of being above everybody? Your nation is the top nation. It gets better. Go ahead and read.
And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Look, you're going to be ran over with blessing. All you have to do is listen. Go ahead and read.
Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field.
Go ahead.
Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body.
Your children going to be blessed. That's the fruit of your body. Go ahead and read.
And the fruit of thy ground. And the fruit of thy cattle.
Go ahead.
The increase of thy kind. And the flocks of thy sheep.
Whatever you set your hand to, the Lord said, I'm going to bless it. Go ahead and read.
Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Blessed is everything that you have. Skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 and go ahead.
And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee.
And they're going to see that you called by the name of the Lord. What is the Lord's name, sisters and brothers? Israel. Our father's name is Jacob, and when the Lord adopted Jacob, he do what all adopted parents do to their children, give them their name. So they're going to see all these blessings, and they're going to see us called by the Lord's name, which is Israel, and they're going to be afraid of it. But the fear is still here. You just don't know it. That's why a boy can get shot by a police officer just by looking hard. First thing, they always claim, well, you know, I feared for my life. He ain't got no weapon. He ain't got nothing. You got a nightstick. You got the pistol. But you feared for your life. Maybe they ain't lying all together. You understand what I'm saying? But let's go ahead.
11. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle,
go ahead,
and in the fruit of thy ground in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee.
Go ahead.
The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand.
Boy, that's a big statement. And to bless all the work of your hand? I mean, you could not fail. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow.
He said, you're going to lend unto many nations, and you shall not borrow. Sisters and brothers, do you know what that this book is saying here? That the Lord is going to make you the financier of the whole planet. I mean, you're going to have the banks. You're going to have the loan companies. You're going to have everything that produce money or whatever somebody needs, and they're going to have to come to you. I mean, you are the financing. Can you wrap your mind about us loaning being the bank rollers of the whole planet? We can't loan nobody $10. That's part of our rent. If you don't give my $10 back when you're supposed, I can get evicted. But the Lord done told you that he going to make you the financiers of the whole world. Everybody got to come to you. What verse are we?
That was 12.
Go ahead and read.
And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail.
You're going to be the head of everything. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt be above only.
And that's what really grabs me, that word only. You shall be above only. That means no matter what goes on, you the boss. Whatever they're planning, you the boss. Whatever finance being discussed, you the boss. Whatever project is being put forth, you are the boss. When you show up, you are in charge. I can't even think about that. Most of us, we ain't even charge our own house. But he said we're going to be in charge above only. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God.
If you listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, all you have to do is keep the commandments, sisters and brothers. That's all you had to do. And the commandment's not hard. He didn't give you something that's too hard. What's wrong with not killing, stealing, committing adultery, lying on your neighbor? What's wrong with honoring your mother and your father? What's wrong with that? That's why I took issue with this thing about why it's talking about Father's Day and Mother's Day. Oh, that's pagan. Look, the Lord said honor your mother and your father. Whatever day you do it is a good day. But anyway, what verse are we?
We're at the end of 13.
Go ahead and read.
Which I command thee this day to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them.
He said, I don't want you to deal with no other God. Do exactly what I tell you. Go ahead and read.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
This is the other shoe that's getting ready to drop. What's going to happen? Go ahead.
To observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
All these curses going to come upon you and overtake you. Go ahead and read.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city. Cursed shalt thou be in the field.
You left the country so you can live better, right? You come to the city, you're still up against it. Go ahead and read.
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Go ahead.
Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
And your children's going to be cursed. Something always going to happen to them, sisters and brothers. We don't like to look at stuff like that. This is scary stuff. Go ahead and read.
And the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
He reversed the whole thing that he had given us blessing for. He said, now if you don't obey me, you're going to be cursed. Skip down to verse 25 and read it.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them.
Go ahead.
And shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
Is you going to go to war? Your enemy's going to beat you, and you are going to be removed into all kingdoms of the earth. And he ain't talking about migrate. Remove. Somebody else going to take you into all the kingdoms of the earth. You're going to find yourself as a slave, and we're going to show you that, sisters and brothers. Skip down to verse 28 and go ahead.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
And that's what you are. You're mad all the time. And you're always astonished at something that's happening to you. Police roll up on you. You don't know whether to get, if you stay in the car or get out. So you say your last prayer. That's the way it is with us. Go ahead and read. What verse?
29.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
Look, sisters and brothers, you know what grope mean? That means that you don't know what to do. That noonday, when the day is bright and the sun is in the middle of the sky where you should see everything, you don't know what to do. It's just like being in a dark room. I know. You have heard of it, but I have lived it. Sisters and brothers, I drank from the colored fountain. I sat in the balcony of the movie. I sat on the back of the bus. You understand what I'm saying? So we marched. That didn't work. We sat in. That didn't work. So we threatened with black power. They shot the fist off. That didn't work. So I know I'm going to do something that I know is right, that is not prejudice. I went into the Air Force. I come from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. They brought a plane to Little Rock. And we went in this plush restaurant to eat. I'm a soldier. White guys ate in a nice plush restaurant. Me and the other brother, we ate at a picnic table in the kitchen. So no matter what we did, it didn't work. And it's still not working. Why? It's because your God put this on you. And can't nobody else take it off you. Only he can take it off you, sisters and brothers. What verse was that?
We're at 30.
Go ahead and read it.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
That really happened in slavery time, didn't it? Your wife wasn't nothing. You know, if the master wanted your wife, he'd take her. You better not say nothing or he'd shoot you. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
See, the Lord is walking this thing down so you can see us coming to where we are. You're going to build a house, you ain't going to be able to live in it. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Nowadays, that's called sharecropping. Sharecrop the whole year, and at the end of the year, you're supposed to get paid. Then the guy break out this here. Now, you ain't slave no more. You sharecrop. You're supposed to be free. Well, you know, this child had to go to medical, and that had medical. This had to have treatment. When I come up and I pay, well, look here, I tell you what. I don't owe you nothing, but you owe me $100, but I'm gonna write that off. My dad left the South with my two oldest siblings, my sister and my brother, with one mule. Because he said, I ain't going to do this no more. You understand what I'm saying? And he piddled around, and God blessed him, and he's able to do it. But this is what I'm saying, sisters and brothers. Build houses, and you didn't sleep in it. You did all that growing and raise all the crops, but you didn't enjoy the fruit of it. Skip down to verse 41. I'm letting you know, sisters and brothers, this is from the Lord. We're going to walk you into this thing. Verse 41, go ahead and read.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them.
Go ahead.
For they shall go into captivity.
That means they're going to go into captivity. They're going to be enslaved. Skip down to verse 43 and go ahead.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
He said a stranger. He didn't name nobody, because when Israel come out of Egypt, it was a mixed multitude. He didn't put a name. Whoever is among you gonna come up very high and gonna come down you're gonna come down very low. Go ahead and read.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him.
Ain't that something? The whole role reversal, ain't it? Go ahead and read.
He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Go ahead.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed.
He said, now look at the stranger. The stranger. Look around you, sisters and brothers. Who do you buy your cars from? The Japanese and the Edomites, the so-called Jews. Who do you buy your groceries from? The grocery store. Who's your grocer? Who rehabs your house? Police. Who said you that hair that you done weaved into your hair? The Koreans. Who doing your fingernails? Chinese. All of our merchants and all the people that serve us for our money look like something else. I'll tell you something, sisters and brothers. When we got ready to build this church in Riverdale, the Gentiles took it over. I was supposed to have a meeting here. They relocated the meeting out there, hauled Melrose Park somewhere, and had a big office there. I walks up in there. I see a whole table full of Gentiles. My contractor sitting on the side. He said when he tried to say something, they did the hand to him. And I ain't going to tell you what I said in there because it's not godly. However,
Right.
I refuse to let them take this job. And we have suffered grief after grief after grief, but you know what? We still here. You understand? Only through the grace of God. Because somebody else, a stranger was supposed to build a church for the Israeli God. A stranger was supposed to build this one. A stranger was supposed to build across the meat house over there. Didn't happen. You know who built it? You did. Yes, sir. And for that, they have given me much grief, but we here. So he said, a stranger that's behind you, he's going to come up very high, and he figured he is supposed to, and that's one thing that really startled me about the people. They figured that they were supposed to take over this and dictate to me how to spend my money.
Wow.
But you know why they figured that? Because of this. What verse are we?
Middle of 45.
Go ahead and read.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
Go ahead.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
Do you know what a sign is? Sign is something to identify. And a wonder is, I wonder why this always happening to these people. So if whoever come under this kind of action or behavior, or whoever this drama fall on, that's Israel. He said, because it's going to be a sign identifying. You got rooms back there. You ain't never been here before. You want to use the washroom, you're looking for a sign. Washroom, male and female. So what the Lord said going to happen to Israel is going to be written. It's going to be a sign. And we're going to have a look at it. What verse was that?
That was 45.
Go ahead and read.
46.
Go ahead.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things.
He says it's going to be a sign, and these things going to be upon you because you didn't serve the Lord. Skip now to verse 63 and go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoice over you to do you good and to multiply you,
go ahead.
So the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you.
So who is rejoicing over you to destroy you? It's not a Gentile, not the Hamite, it's the Lord. Go ahead and read.
And to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
And that's what our fathers didn't know, the God of Easter, sisters and brothers. Our father had no knowledge about the God of Christmas. He knew nothing about the God of Sunday. He knew nothing about the God that's going to take you to heaven. He didn't know nothing about that. We didn't know nothing about it. But ain't this what we keep serving as a people? Everything that our fathers knew nothing about, that's what we serve, and sisters and brothers. You're going to serve other gods, woods and stones. Go ahead and read.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease.
You can't ever relax. You know, even when you got something, you think somebody's going to take it away from you. Go ahead and read.
Neither shall the sole of thy feet have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind.
You scared of everything. You're scared of your own young people. You're scared of the Gentile. You're scared of everybody. Because the Lord's going to give you a trembling heart, and he's going to put some fear on you. You're scared all the time. You're scared in the daytime. You're scared at nighttime. Go ahead and read.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee. And thou shalt fear day and night.
Now, can't we die quickly? You stand on the bus stop, drive by, boom. On the L, shoot, break out. All the time. Get stopped by the police, reach up there and grab the hand. Reach for a pistol, boom. It is so many ways that you can die, and you are the most likely, especially your young males in Israel, but they don't respect the female either. Don't fool yourself. You are most likely to be killed than anybody else in this country. You are. And that's in every country. You hang out to Black History Week, we're going to show you, you ain't no better off than when you with the Hamites. In fact, I thank God that I'm among the Gentiles. Because Ham straight up don't give you no break.
Right.
Go ahead and read.
And shalt have none assurance of thy life.
And so you ain't going to ever be sure whether, you might, hey, I'm breathing now, but I don't necessarily have to be breathing when the sun go down. Go ahead and read.
In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even.
Let's skip down to verse 68. Verse 68. And let's look at this. Remember, the Lord said he's going to take us all over the world. But that's why I know when he said Egypt again, this is talking about the house of bondage, because to us, Egypt is the house of bondage. Go ahead and read. Verse 68.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So Egypt to us is the house of bondage. Lord told you he is going to scatter us all over the world. And he's going to get you there by ships. How did we get here? And not on the decks of the ship, didn't we? In the holds of the ship. And he said, when you get there, you're going to be sold for male and female slaves. That's bondmen and bondwomen, who in this entire hemisphere was brought by ships of slaves and sold. That's why you got a lot of brothers running around talking about, the Puerto Ricans are one tribe and the Mexicans are one tribe. Brother come to me, well, how do we know the difference? I said, find the people that was brought here as slaves. You just found Israel. Because the Lord said this is going to be a sign. If you was not brought here as a slave, you're not Israel. It's all that simple. And once we got here, you're going to be sold as male and female slave. That's if the curse come upon you. So now let's see which one fell on us now. Because I heard the preacher say one time, we ain't under no curse. I ain't under no curse. Well, let's see. Let's go ahead in Daniel's the 9th chapter. We going to see. We're going to let the book talk, sisters and brothers.
Right.
Because you go to church and waste your time. Ain't nobody teaching you nothing. I'm going to show you the Lord spoke about that too. Because we picked the wrong captivity to identify ourselves by. Because if we had picked the right captivity, then we would have come to the conclusion that, wait a minute, ain't nobody guilty about this but us.
Right.
And when the people got a little overzealous on punishing us, they made them a debt with God. Now they got to pay. Everybody pays when you mess up with God. Daniel's 9, and we're going to start at verse 8. Daniel's 9 and 8, because we got to see which one of these we come under. Did we come under the curse or did we come under the blessing? Verse 8, go ahead.
O Lord, to us belongeth confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, and to our fathers, because we have sinned against thee.
Oh, so we did sin. Skip down to verse 11. Verse 11 and go ahead.
Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law.
How many?
All.
Go ahead.
Even by departing that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, a servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
Oh, so the curse is poured upon us, ain't it? We know now. Read the next verse.
And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil.
He said he has confirmed his word against us and against our judges that judged us, because he have brought upon us a great evil. Who brought this great evil upon us? God. And look what it says here. Go ahead and read.
For under the whole heaven.
Under the whole heaven.
Hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
Have been done to anybody else is what has been done to us, sister and brother. Even Jeremiah told you in Lamentation, he said Sodom and Gomorrah is better than us because no hand stayed on them. Every generation the hand is on us. We do not escape. Do you know that they're discussing now whether to redo the Civil Rights Act? Y'all know that? In these modern days? What if they decide not to reinstitute it? The civil rights laws down the toilets? And I ain't going to say yours all down the toilet. They never got out. You just don't know it. But I'm saying this modern day time right now, sisters and brothers. So we look at this. The curse has been poured upon us that Moses told us about. And we don't know that. That's why I don't get off into the hate thing.